In this video, we're going to look at how to configure different settings within a Lambda function from a project created by Amplify in the Amplify CLI. Now, a couple of the different options that we're going to be looking at today are how to update the memory size, how to update the runtime, and also how to configure environment variables. When you create a function using the CLI, we give you a few different options, but the CLI doesn't give you every single option available in Lambda. So we're going to kind of show you how to make those updates and those adjustments yourself within the Amplify project created by the CLI and how to deploy those to your account. So let's go ahead and get started. And to do so, I'm going to be starting from an Amplify project that I've created. And in this Amplify project, I have a function and an API endpoint. And we're going to be using the API endpoint to test out the function in just a moment. So let's go ahead and open up the project in our text editor, and we're going to go ahead and update the runtime first. Now to do that, we're going to go into the Amplify folder, and we're going to go into the CloudFormation template that is part of the function itself. And that should be an amplify/backend/function and then the name of the function. Now in this project, I only have one function called hello function. So I'm going to go ahead and open that CloudFormation template here. Now if we look for the runtime key, you should see that we have a runtime of Node.js 12.x. So let's go ahead and change that to 14.x. So this is all we need to do. When we run Amplify push, this will go ahead and update the runtime. The next thing we might want to update is the memory size. So let's go ahead and set a key for memory size, and we're going to set this to 1024. Now, when you deploy a function from the CLI, we typically set the memory size at 128 as of this recording, which is a low memory size. But for a lot of different scenarios, you might want your function to be faster. And when you bump the memory size up to a value like 1024, the function is a lot faster. But since the execution time is faster, even though you're bumping up the memory size, the cost is typically about the same. Often it's even less expensive. But this, of course, all depends on your application and all the stuff happening in your function. So with these two updates, we should be able to go ahead and run Amplify push. And we should now be able to see these new updates in our console after the deployment is successful. After our function has been deployed, we should be able to run Amplify console and pull up our function in the Amplify console. So here we'll go ahead and click on functions and then view in Lambda. And then now if we scroll down a little bit, we should see that our runtime is now set to 14.x. And we should also see that our memory size is set to 1024. So the next thing that we'll probably go ahead and look at is how to work with environment variables. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can work with environment variables other than, of course, setting them here directly in the console. And also to keep in mind, if you do set them here in the console, if you make an update to your CloudFormation locally or you change something in your function locally, then these environment variables may be overwritten. So the couple of different ways that we're going to look at are going to be ways to kind of avoid that from happening. And the two main strategies that we're going to look at are working with secrets, so the type of variables that you do not want exposed anywhere in your code. And then you have maybe a configuration environment variable that you're okay having exposed in your code. So let's first take a look at how to approach that second scenario, where we have a configuration value and we want to configure that in our project and we want to access that in our function as process.env. So to do that, let's go ahead back into our code here, into our CloudFormation template. And we're going to go ahead and look for the parameters property. And here in this parameters property, we can go ahead and set a value that we can reference later. So the value that we're going to be using is a value called myKey. And the actual reference for us is going to be myKey, and the value of this reference is going to be my environment variable. And then later we can now, in the actual environment variable section, create a new environment variable and give it the value of my environment variable. So to do that, let's go ahead and look for variables in the environment. And here we basically have a couple of different variables that we already have set. I'm going to go ahead and kind of break this apart a little bit. So here we basically have two environment variables that are kind of set by the project. And we want to go ahead and use another one. So the one that we want to work with is the myKey variable. So we can now just pretty much create a new property here called myEnvVar. And we're going to now give it the reference of myKey, which is going to be, of course, the variable we created earlier called myEnvironmentVariable. And then later on in our function, we can now access that value by running or by using process.env.myEnvVar. So when we run an update now, we run Amplify push, this environment variable should now be in our function. So let's go ahead and try this out. So I'm going to go ahead and run Amplify push, and then we're going to see if this is working. All right, with that deployed, let's go ahead and jump in our function, console, refresh, and we should now see that we have that new environment variable, myEnvVar, with my environment variable as the value. So that is you could almost consider it like a public value, because if anyone was to look into your code base, they would see this value. Next, we're going to look at a secret value. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to first go into the AWS console and we're going to look for Secrets Manager. And in the Secrets Manager console, we'll go ahead and click Store a New Secret. And for the type, we'll click Other, or we'll choose Other Types of Secrets. And here for the secret value, we might say something like Amplify Test Key. And for the value, we're going to use something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And then in our function, we want to be able to kind of retrieve this value. So to do that, to go ahead and save this, let's go ahead and click Next. We'll give this like an Amplify Test Key, or Amplify Test Key or something like that. And then we're going to go ahead and click Next and Next. And then before we store it, we're going to be given some sample code to kind of give us an idea how to retrieve this value. But we're going to be retrieving this ourselves anyway within our code. So we'll be looking at that in just a moment. So now we've created our key, and if we click on it, we see that we have our value where we can click Retrieve Secret Value. And then we also have our secret ARN. And we're going to be needing this ARN in just a moment in our Amplify project. Now, how is our function going to access this? Well, we need to give our Lambda function permission to interact with this secrets manager, or with this actual secret itself. So to do that, we need to set our configuration in our Amplify project. So we're going to go back to our CloudFormation. And what we're going to look for is the policy document. And in the policy document, we're going to be passing in another statement into this array. So we have an array, and we kind of want to pass in another document here. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in the document that we're going to be working with. We're going to say effect is allow. The action is going to be secrets manager get secret value. And then we want to specify the secret that we want to interact with. And to do that, we need the ARN that we're going to be pasting right here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that default value, and I'm going to go ahead and copy the ARN here. And then we're going to also be leaving the reference for the region and the account as well. But the main value is really this. And then I'm going to also, of course, leave this code in a GitHub gist, which I'll link in the comments of this video. So we've saved that, and now we should be able to go ahead and deploy our function and start using this. But before we do that, let's actually go into our function code and access this value. So to do that, I'm going to go into src/index.js. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and write some code where we're going to be returning that value in the body. So we'll first go ahead and require the AWS SDK. And then we're going to go ahead and get an instance of the secrets manager by calling aws.secretsmanager. Next, we're going to go ahead and retrieve the secret in our handler function. And the way that we want to do that is we're going to say await secretsmanager.getSecretValue.promise. And then we want to pass in our secret ID. Now the secret ID is going to be the ID that we set in the secrets manager console. So if we go to secrets and we click on the secret name, we can just copy the secret name to our clipboard. And we'll go back to our code, and the secret ID should be that secret name. The next thing we want to do is we want to maybe find a way to kind of return that value in our our code somewhere. We probably would use this somewhere as opposed to returning it, of course. But for this example, I want to just show that we are indeed accessing it, and what the structure of that data also looks like. So to do that here in our return value, we might say something like secret is secret.secret string. The secret string is going to be a JSON, be some JSON data, a stringified JSON data that has the secret key value pair. So you typically would probably parse this and then maybe return the secret string dot value, whatever that is. But for this example, let's just go ahead and do it this way. So with this set up, we should be able to test this out. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy these updates by running Amplify push, and then we're going to go ahead and give this a shot. So once our function update has been deployed, let's go back into the Lambda console and refresh. And now if we go to permissions, we should now see that we have our secrets manager permissions configured here. So our permissions are configured, but let's make sure this is working. And the way that we might test that out is I'm going to go ahead and open the AWS exports file to find our endpoint for the API that we're working with. And then I might just curl this, and it's going to be the /hello path. So I'm going to say curl, whoops. And we see that in the return value, the secret is amplify test key, and this is the value. So we now have configured, our Lambda function to have a couple of different types of environment variable support, both private and non-private, I would say. So I think that's kind of the general idea of this video. I just wanted to kind of give some ideas around how you can extend the different services that are created by the Amplify CLI, in this case Lambda, which is kind of one of the most popular use cases. You can also extend pretty much any of the other services that are out there. I would definitely read more into the documentation for each service and look at the different configuration values that are available, because there's quite a bit that you can do here. Because the CLI is essentially an abstraction on top of infrastructure as code, there's going to be a limited number of things that you can do compared to the entire, ecosystem of services and features within those services. So as always, I really appreciate you checking out my video. I hope that you learned something here. If you did, or if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel and share my video or other videos that you find interesting. And until next time, I will see you again. Thank you.